This podcast is proudly sponsored by Surf Prep Sanding. They're a family-owned and operated company specializing in sanders, abrasives, and dust extractors. I've been using Surf Prep now for years and have come to know the amazing people behind their brand. I love their 6-inch random orbital sander and the 3x4 sander the best, and they have helped me level up my sanding to get a great finish for my projects. Use code MAKERLOUNGE, all one word, at surfprepsanding.com for 10% off your order. I also want to say thank you to StickerBeat for providing this podcast with some awesome stickers. These stickers have a tab, so it makes it super easy to peel and stick. If you don't want to annoy your maker friends, try stickerbeat.com and use the code MAKERLOUNGE, all one word. You can find these stickers and some great merch by visiting our store at makerloungepodcast.com. Now let's get to today's episode. Huge thank you to Surf Prep for sponsoring this episode, and also thank you to our patrons. We're recording this episode back to back to the previous episode, so we don't have any new patrons to shout out this week, but we will make sure to announce and mention those Rockstar patrons at the end of this episode. If you want to become a patron and get access to the after show content, and sometimes we are able to stream these live for the patron members, and so if you want to get over there, get in on that, head over to patreon.com/MakerLoungePodcast. Welcome to the lounge. I'm Matt with Voltner Woodworking and your host of the Maker Lounge podcast, where every Friday we have a rotating group of makers hanging out and talking shop with each other. He's the man behind the camera, producer, editor, director, and in charge of catching the perfectly fluffy butts on the farm for the very successful Ann of all trades. He recently stepped out from the corporate world to spend his days producing content on the farm with his wife Ann and their countless animals. Don't be fooled by his Instagram handle. Adam of No Trades has a full plate and still agreed to take some time from his busy schedule to join me in the lounge. Nice. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I like that.
So, you're the man, the myth, the legend, it says
elusive
Adam of No Trades, but we know that there's a lot of things that go behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's some amount of trades that happen, but I have a brand to maintain, so I'm trying to be consistent with the no trades.
Yeah. So when did the no trades portion, how did that come up?
I think we were just joking around once at like Christmas break over at my mom's house or something, and just trying to come up with the most ridiculous like Instagram handle and or description. And I think I was like, how about Adam of No Trades? This is like a joke. And then I think my description I put in at the time was something like, my mom's Netflix password is like Psalms 27 or something. Just like complete nonsense, but it just stuck. So,
Ann, your wife, she is the face, of course, of the channel that you produce, and you do all the kind of behind the scenes stuff for that.
Yep.
Are you doing are you coming up with the ideas for future videos? Or is she kind of driving that?
Yeah, so I mean, I should probably just preface a lot of this by saying, this has been a very successful channel before Adam of No Trades joined, and probably would have continued to be a successful channel, even after Adam of All Trades joined. But I think for Ann, there's a lot been going on in terms of like just the amounts of that she's trying to do. I think this is a common kind of thing for makers, but especially with how many platforms there are, the amount of juggling between the platforms I think is just ridiculous. And so and Ann has really spread herself across all of them, and she has almost equal audience on YouTube and Instagram. And so I think where like I've come in is really just trying to take a lot of that off her plate, especially some of the more technical stuff, and also just kind of the more of the production side. So to answer your question, I think I bring a lot of ideas to it, but there's a lot of things organically I'm just not going to come up with. Like I'm not going to probably propose that we do, like, let's just think about something we did today. Like I'm probably not going to propose a video where we like give an instruction on setting up like for chicks, bringing chicks home, like
little
chickens. Like I just wouldn't think of that because it's just not my world. So I kind of digest a lot of what's going on. I think around the farm and kind of translate that into good stories. And kind of practice good storytelling.
So let's set the stage a little bit for the audience. You live in Nashville, and the two of you live on a farm. How big is the farm?
So we're on about 30 acres, just outside of Nashville.
Okay. And that's a lot of acreage.
It is.
And you've got, I think you own an entire zoo of animals.
We do. We have, I'll just rattle off this. We have like 2 miniature donkeys. We have 3 alpacas. We have a countless amount of chickens, like 4 cats, 3 dogs, a pig. I'm sure I'm forgetting goats. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Do they all have names?
They do all have names. Unless we're going to eat them, then we try not to name them.
Oh yeah, that's a little harsh.
It's not good for our psyche.
Right. So the channel is focused on all trades, from farming, woodworking. I saw recently, I think today you posted a sewing thing. So it's kind of like a homestead channel.
Yeah, it is. I think probably homesteading, especially in the last year, is probably the closest thing I would probably describe it. But she's really, the channel really came out of the woodworking area. In fact, that was really exclusively what she did back in the early days. Was doing like hand tool woodworking specifically, and then so I think as the channels she's evolved, it's become a lot of homesteading, but I mean, like you said, like sewing, and we really are kind of all over the place, which it's a lot of fun for us. I do think it's a challenge producing for a lot of these platforms. I think a lot of times the algorithms don't know necessarily how to think about some of these things, but it's a lot of fun. We talk about that a lot, like between us, like thinking about the algorithm and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it's what we want to do, and so I think it's fun.
Yeah, and so of the two of you, you're more of the nerd, and she's more of the free spirit.
Yeah, I'm definitely into like tech. I come out of the corporate world from Amazon, and I love new technology and figuring out new technology, which I think kind of works well for us just because this is not a surprise to anybody, but she really kind of tries to stay out as much as she can, which I think is probably very healthy in a lot of ways. I think that, it's definitely something very easy to kind of get caught up in, but I gladly kind of take some of that off her plate.
Right. Yeah. So, of all of that, she's able to focus more on milking cows and, all that kind of stuff. And you're able to focus more on the analytics.
Yeah, definitely. I love the analytics. Actually, I came out of the world of analytics at Amazon, and my life was just looking at numbers and debating numbers, and so things like YouTube analytics or some of these platforms, I just love that stuff. And it's a whole new world, but I think it's kind of a fun game.
Yeah. So tell me more about your position at Amazon and how long you were doing it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I was at Amazon for about 9 years. I started on a team. It was actually 12 people. And in the time I was there, we grew to about 1,300 people.
Wow.
So just like massive growth, along with the rest of the company. It was actually a team. So, I don't know if you're familiar with like FBA or like fulfillment by Amazon. But in that process, Amazon loses and damages some really small portion of the inventory that's sent in. And there's a large team that's required to process those reimbursements, or to try to locate like inventory for sellers. And so I helped kind of run this large team in the time I was there. So very much like a very specific part of a very large wheel. Like a very small cog in a very large wheel that is Amazon. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, and I loved the team I left, but yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. So just recently, I think that January or something like that time frame, or when was your last day there?
I left in June of last year, so we're we're coming up in a few months on a year. So yeah.
Oh wow. And things have definitely changed, I guess, since doing that.
Big time. Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah.
Anybody thinking about like quitting corporate and jumping into this world, it's definitely an adjustment. A lot of the way I like to describe it, because I get asked this question a lot, is like corporate stress is kind of like always here, especially if you're a manager like I was.
Consistent stress.
Exactly. It's just always there, at a decently high level. Kind of this entrepreneurial world, which I'm stepping into with Anne, is really kind of like really high highs and then like pretty low lows. So it's just it's kind of like a roller coaster, which I think it's a lot of fun. It's just it's very different. And it takes quite an adjustment.
Yeah. So you guys, are you like cranking out products and stuff, or more focused on the content creation type stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now a lot of what we're focused on is the content creation side, and I think the backbone of kind of what she's doing is the Instagram and the YouTube. At a minimum, we need to get out 2 YouTube videos a month, and then what's required on Instagram as well. I do think we are looking to pivot towards selling some products, as well as kind of restarting what she had done before, which is like the classes and in that aspect of thing. But these things take a lot of time, I'm sure, as you know. So but yeah, that's the goal.
Okay. So like with the classes, will you be part of the content framework and doing some of the like plans and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that's some of that's a little TBD, but the way that she kind of styled her classes before was, she did like spoon carving classes, or she'll do courses that she's recorded, and then they'll be available either like in like a platform where they can be purchased, or the plans can be purchased, or the courses can be watched, or even like live classes. That was a really big thing, I think, during kind of 2020 and like COVID, was a lot of live like spoon carving classes and stuff like that. And so I don't know what it will look like, but we'd love to kind of get back to something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people were shocked with the meta change that just recently came with monetization changes and stuff like that. So I think there are people pivoting in their content and trying to supplement in different ways and stuff. So I think that's smart.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that whole world of kind of trying to keep track of what's happening with some of these platforms. It's just, it seems like it's just a lot of chasing.
Right.
And I feel like I've gotten thrown into this world, and I mean, it's interesting. But it's definitely, it's something that I think, and I've talked about this a lot. It's something we don't want to be as reliant on, in the future. And I think that's kind of where building email lists, building like websites, building, selling your own product. I think that is where that becomes a lot more attractive for us. Just so that we're not so vulnerable to some of these great platforms that we've enjoyed for so long.
Right.
Because I just don't know where everything's going. The world is changing so fast.
So fast, yeah. I heard one conspiracy theorist. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist, but he sounded like it when he was talking about it. He was saying that the whole meta thing was a preemptive decision because they suspect that TikTok is going to be banned in the US. And it was kind of their way of it. I don't want to jump down that road, but it was an interesting take that I hadn't thought about. And I was like, okay, I mean, I guess as opposed to waiting if TikTok were to get banned and then saying, hey, we're cutting off monetization. That was an interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine being in, I mean, so I come out of the corporate world and I'm just like speculating, but I can't even imagine what the last 3 months have been like in some of these big tech companies, just with how quickly AI, like generative AI, just like snuck up on everybody.
Right.
I've been in these meetings before, and I know kind of how these discussions happen at some of the high level of these companies, and I just can't imagine the amount of scrambling that's been going on to try to get on top of this. In a lot of ways. So I think it's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah.
The tech world. So we'll see.
Yeah. And companies used to be able to get that data for free. And now people have to opt in for data and being able to market to people and stuff. So I think with the AI coming on board, there's going to be programs that can scrub your behaviors and generate an algorithm on you, even though you're not offering that for Amazon or whatever, to be able to market to you.
Yeah. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
I saw like this archaeology account that was like on Facebook. Did you see this? It was like all fake content.
Oh, really?
It was all generative AI.
Nice.
But it had like a really significant amount of followers, and people were speculating like what does this mean for the future of like the algorithm? Because like they were getting tons and tons of engagement, which was clearly tapping into the algorithm. And it almost feels like we might be going into a future where these generative AIs are like brute forcing the algorithm because like there's no cost to generate content. It's,
right.
do you know what I mean? So like,
right.
What are these companies going to do? Like, I think they might need to consider the way they think about engagement in these algorithms among like a lot of things, because if you could just brute force the AI like infinitely with generative AI, I think you need to rethink everything.
Right.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And then I guess, if it starts consuming its own bad content and data, then how much of it is real versus how much of it is fake data out there that it's regenerating?
I mean, we might be entering a really interesting era here where I don't know, like there's just like I've been following this AI stuff quite a bit, and it's probably the biggest technological breakthrough since the internet. I don't think that that's an exaggeration that we just saw.
I don't think so either.
That we just saw in December.
Right. Yeah. My wife is a teacher. She's an 8th grade teacher. And it was several months ago. I mean, yeah, right around kind of the end of the year when ChatGPT and all that was popping up pretty prevalently. And I said, honey, have you seen any of this like stuff with this AI stuff and how people can start writing papers and stuff with it? And she's like, oh yeah, we've had discussions on it because you can essentially put in there, I want to write a 1,200 word paper on an 8th grade reading level. And I want to have, 3 or 4 mistakes. My grade is generally a B-, and it will spit out a report.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't even imagine like being in school now. Like when I was in high school, we tried to cheat. Like we get like the Cliff Notes, the little Cliff Note books. Like you do anything to not read the book, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so like I can't even imagine now, like being in high school. Like
right.
It just feels it's got to be so easy to just fake your way through this stuff. So I think that they're just really going to have to rethink education.
Yeah. Yeah. Like is education even, I mean, I shouldn't say this. My wife's not here right now, so she won't throw anything from the other room, but it's like, school in general, like she's an English teacher, right? And trying to teach kids how to write properly, write a paper properly. And it's almost like, AI could do it at this point.
Yeah. I remember when we were in school, it was like the retort was from the teacher was always like, well, you're not going to have a calculator with you all the time. It's like, well, that proved not to be true. Yeah. And now it's kind of like, it's probably the same thing with like writing, like the written, they probably said, well, you're not going to always have that, but you will. I mean, you're always going to have you can always do it. So I don't know. My opinion is education is about critical thinking and training your brain and doing that. That's why we do math that really has no practical value. Like there's no reason to learn calculus, but it's it's like exercise for the brain. So I think they just, as long as they can, I'm way out of my element here, but as long as they can,
we're experts here.
Yeah, we're expert, but because we're on a podcast, so we're
right.
experts.
That's right. We subject matter experts.
But yeah, I mean, as long as they can keep that going, I think they'll be fine. But I don't know, I don't think homework is a thing anymore. Like, how could you do homework? Because go home and write a paper. It's not going to work. So I just feel like it's all in class probably. I don't know. This is my expert opinion.
Yes. Take it as gospel.
Yeah.
Boy, I didn't think we were going to go down the AI route, but we sure did that quickly.
Yep. It happens.
So, yeah. So, I mean, well, I guess, tapping into that a little bit on using the AI tools and stuff like that, it's probably hard to build that into content that is revolving around a farm and a homestead.
Yeah. I guess yes. if there's what Anne is doing is like almost the opposite of what we're talking about, and which is really great and reassuring in a lot of ways. I feel a little bit of comfort knowing that we're in an industry that values, I think, it values traditions and kind of authenticity. And so I think there's a lot of tech behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, like if we stray too far from that mission, I think we both kind of get disappointed and catch ourselves.
Well, even so, you hear more and more. I had Drew Witt on the podcast, a few episodes ago, and he said something that I felt was profound, but they weren't his words. It was from somebody else that he listened to, but he said, don't make content for the algorithm, make content for people.
Totally.
And so you used to see a lot of people using keywords, and I mean, me included. I'm not monetized, a very, very small channel. But I was trying to build everything around keywords and trying to put keywords in every nook and cranny everywhere. And at the end of the day, it's not about the keywords. So even if you have an AI that writes a perfect script around keywords, you still have to have that idea, that concept.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said, but like the algorithm just wants like people to watch longer and click on it at a higher rate. And so I think when we think about like Anne's audience, it's making content that is uplifting, that is helpful, that is, inspiring to people. And so I think we catch ourselves a lot, often kind of chasing the algorithm sometimes, and then kind of have to refocus. And I don't know that we've always hit that mark, but it's tricky. I mean, if you data watch too much, it's not healthy. And I do think it kind of leads you down. It can lead you down the wrong path in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that grounds you quite like, I'm not speaking from experience, but judging from what I saw in Anne's video when she was out there milking a cow, and she's just like at peace. and it's like it's kind of getting away from the technology and getting away from everything. So you guys have that. And I think also for people who are in the grind on a day-to-day basis at that high stress level, like you were talking about, on their day-to-day job, seeing somebody out there milking a cow, just enjoying life, is content for the people.
Totally. Yeah. We talk a lot about this, Annie and I, like who are we talking to, which I think is something that is like super important for a channel to know, like very specifically. And I think Anne's talked about this like all the time on other podcasts. I'm not saying something new, but she really believes in like knowing who you're talking to, exactly who the person is. And she has kind of who this person in her head, like, is very specific. And if you ever, I'll let her tell this on her own, but it's a very specific person. Like, there's like a really long, long explanation she'll go on about exactly who this person is, like their names and like
their
what
fears, their desires.
Yeah, no, like she goes really deep on it. And, you know, in essence, it's kind of what you're talking about. It's somebody who maybe is in the corporate world who, really, you know, they maybe feel like a little bit unfulfilled and think that there's more to that. You know, they may be having stuff going on in the marriage, stuff like that. And so, like, I think knowing you're talking to that person and kind of inspiring that person, I think is super valuable for how to like focus and really direct your content, and keep it, consistent too. I think a lot of channels can struggle with a lot of inconsistency in who they're talking to. So I think it's a pretty smart thing. My wife is pretty smart.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. No, she seems like she's got it all together. And so I met you at Workbench Con.
Yeah.
And I stalked you over there. We were at dinner at the same place, and I bumped up against you and I said, "Hey, can you be in my podcast?" And you're like, "Who the heck are you?" But at Workbench Con, she gave a just dynamite keynote speech.
Yeah,
it was. I'm not a man of tears, but I was fighting it back. Like, it was very moving, and in that, she talked a little bit about, you know, the struggles and stuff that you guys had gone through. And we're not going to go down that route unless you want to open it up. But you guys had some struggles kind of, and that is what was the impetus for you. And I saw your YouTube video.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not anything that's not public.
Yeah.
People can go out to your YouTube channel and see it. But that was the impetus for you to make this launch. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's, thank you about the speech too. Like, I was super proud of her. She did such a good job. We didn't get it recorded, which it really bothered us after, but
yeah, everybody keeps asking about it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I think it was like 4 people's job to record it. And I think everybody thought the other person was doing it, but it was a great speech. I was super proud of her, but, I mean, so I think, Annie's been quite a journey. All of this is kind of on a lot of the videos and is out there, but she, you know, there's been some like mental health kind of struggles, I think, over the last year. And a lot of it is just the classic content creator, like just how overwhelming I think a lot of this is, among kind of a lot of other things going on in her life. And so I think for us, it came down to like just a really simple things. Like, do we care about, like our careers and our money, or do we care about like staying together and like figuring out how we can make this work? And I think the opportunity for us to be able to work together was too good to pass up. She's done a phenomenal job building this business, over the last 10 years. So the opportunity for me to kind of hop on and kind of take some of the stress off of her and kind of help propel the business wherever we want to go, I think was too good to pass up.
Right.
Definitely has challenges. I mean, I don't, I wouldn't recommend working with your wife to anybody, to everybody.
Right, yeah.
It's a lot of work. And I'd be lying if I'd say like we've figured it out. But it's like like I said, it's like this, the highs are very high though. And I really kind of live for those.
Mm-hmm. Those help sustain you through the lows, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, just keeping those memories of those good times and stuff. You're just thinking about working with my wife full time. It's like we already early in our marriage. So we've been married since 2009, and I'm not even going to try to do the math on that because I cheated through high school. So I'm not great at math. But yeah, so we've been married since 2009, and early on, because I'm 5 years older than her, I'm more just naturally more mature. I'm the nerd and she's the free spirit. I'm the saver. She's the spender. So we already struggled with her feeling like we had the like daddy syndrome kind of thing where she always thought like I was trying to be her dad kind of thing. But now it's a lot better than it was, I've learned to watch how I say things, but I can only imagine the two of us working together. It would be there would be a lot of struggles.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's especially in a creative environment. I think especially where, truth and what is the right thing to do is not objective in a lot of ways, right? Like what we're doing as creators is extremely subjective. Like, is this thumbnail going to work?
Right.
That's super subjective, and we don't even know what the right answer is until we publish usually. So, that's especially hard. And so I think, it's something we're working through, and I think that it's always a journey. I mean, I don't think any of this stuff is a destination. It's always just a journey.
Yeah. So as you're, going through this and talking about the creative style and stuff like that, are you just kind of following her around with the camera, or like how does that work out? Does she lay out the plan ahead of time? Are you laying out the plan?
Yeah, it's a complicated question, and I'll try to give give a super long answer, but
right, yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of different video styles that we kind of deploy, and so depending on like kind of the video style, we'll have different shooting techniques. One of the ones that we use a lot of is kind of the vlog style, the handheld like this that she does. I actually we've done that one a lot recently. That one's one, and then you kind of have your talking head one where they sit down, where it's a little bit more scripted. And we're kind of like pre-planning a lot what we're saying. And then there's like hybrid ones like that where I am chasing her around, with the camera. And so I think it just depends. One thing that I did really early on when I did kind of quit my job to start working with her was starting to understand storytelling and kind of story arc and a lot of kind of that aspect of making videos. And so we talk a lot about that, and really crafting kind of a little bit more of an arc, in our stories.
Right.
And making sure that we're kind of taking the viewer along for, that kind of journey. So the long answer is it depends, on that. One of the things that we are really trying to do, though, as an aside, is to make these videos a little easier to do. Some of these take a long time. I'm sure but
oh yeah.
I don't think we've made one that took less than like 40 hours. So
right, yeah. Last night I was up until 12:30, editing a video that I'm like. At the end of the day, I mean, like I said, I have a very small channel. I have 1,700 subscribers. Some videos I get 5,000 or 6,000 views, and some videos I get 600 views.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult spending so much time on a video that you're like, at the end of the day, is this going to be a 600 view, or is this going to be a 6,000, or is this one going to be the one?
It's just totally. And I think every creator thinks about that. I mean, it's going back to like getting too focused on metrics. It can be demoralizing to put your your effort into something, and then it just like massively underperforms relative to kind of what you're expecting. So Annie and I talk a lot about this, but really trying to be input focused instead of output focused. So, just knowing that we're putting in what we know is our best foot forward and what we think is good content. And if we just keep doing that, we just kind of trust that the output will come. Easier said than done. But yeah, that's a very frequent conversation that we have. Because we've had some ones where it's like we just think this is the best video ever, and nobody clicks on it.
Changing your thumbnail and title 6 times or 7 times, or
and then you just give up. So like, at some point I just give up. It's like I don't think people want to watch this video.
No, that's tough. So as you're coming up with these and you're trying to crank out 2 videos a month at minimum, you're planning out for next month essentially?
Yeah, we are ideally like 3 or 4 videos ahead, and we have a lot of things in the parking lot, we like to call it, like ideas, but our goal, or my goal, is to not have video production be what we do. It's to film what we do, because I think it can be very easily, and Annie's the best about kind of catching us when we do this, but it can be very easy to have our life be video production. And then we're just making videos about whatever is like trendy. And like, that's what we do. Whereas opposed to, I think what we strive for, which is to have her do her projects and we just happen to film it and we have a good time doing it. Right. And then while she's continuing to live life and do other aspects of the business, like, which is a ton, Instagram, Facebook, I'm in the room kind of editing and kind of cleaning up, kind of following up on that. So that's how it should work. It doesn't always work that way. Yeah.
Yeah. How have you seen it since last year? Have you seen the channel change with you doing this?
I think so. We've definitely introduced video styles that she wasn't doing, and kind of video like editing techniques that she wasn't doing. And I think the storytelling has evolved a little bit, kind of beyond some of the more tripod and project focused stuff that she was putting out. It's hard for me to say whether it's better or different, like I can't really judge that, but we've taken the channel definitely in a more of like a storytelling direction, where it does talk about things like marriage. It does talk about some of the more like life update stuffs more, and it does kind of take people on an emotional arc through the video that is quite a little bit more pronounced, I say, than what we used to do on her channel. So it's one of those things that we consciously did when I kind of quit, and we weren't sure if the audience would go for it. I'm still not, I'm still not really know if the audience is going for it, but we're going there anyways. And we've had some videos that have performed decently well, which is encouraging, because I don't know that when we started out that we knew if people would watch a video that was literally just about her life updates, or was like taking them on an emotional journey about like dog collars or making a guitar and an amp, and talking about our marriage. Like, we didn't know that if there was appetite for that, but I think that they've done decently well enough that we feel encouraged.
Yeah. I think, network television seems to be somewhat dying, where people are consuming more content on demand. obviously, on demand, but even like Netflix and stuff like that. But I find myself and even the people that I talk to watching more content on YouTube because it's more relatable. And I think there's a lot of distrust among celebrities and stuff. And so, which ironically, YouTube, people end up becoming the celebrities.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you saw it when you went to Workbench Con, right? You and Ann and just, you're celebrities in our space. And, but you're relatable because it's something that, it's tailored to our niche. Your content is tailored to our people, to the maker niche. And so most network televisions aren't like that. They're, you're being brought along on whatever they're doing, but it's not tailored to the viewer.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to have to bring it back to generative AI, but it's been on my mind a ton. But I really think that being authentic is going to be the thing going forward, because I just foresee a uncertainty of what is true on the internet being a problem for just across the board on the platforms. I foresee this being an era where we don't know what's true.
Right.
We don't know what to trust. And I think it's going to be this period of adjustment that's going to be quite odd. And so my intuition is to continue to be as authentic, make this channel as authentic as we possibly can, and not fall into some of these trends in terms of that kind of pull out the authenticity, which I think is super easy to do. I find myself editing a lot of times, and I catch myself like I'm editing a TikTok or something, and it's there's things flashing around, and we're going at a breakneck speed, and I catch myself thinking this is not authentic. This is just I think this doesn't you kind of at some point you lose the essence of who's on the screen. And so I do think about this stuff a lot. I don't know if you can tell, but
no, I love it. Yeah. I'm nerding out right now. This is exactly, you think about all the mistrust that's happened in the last 3 years. And we can't say, the word because we get flagged
sure
on that. But just, everything that happened over the last couple of years with things getting shut down and information coming from both sides that was not correct. Yeah. And so you said the word trust, and that's exactly it. I think people need to see that authenticity, and they can smell the BS when they're seeing stuff. And YouTube is kind of like real life. And so I think, the more you process it, the less authentic it is sometimes. So going back to the vlog style, bringing some of that in and keeping some of that in, it feels less contrived.
Exactly. Yeah. Contrived is the word. We that comes up a lot in our video planning. Is that feels too contrived. Let's step back from that. Because I think I think it's going to be a thing. I get a sense. I've only been in this industry for a little less than a year, but I can kind of see where this is going. Being in the tech, I've been in the tech industry for a long time, and I just think it's going to get really wild here pretty quick.
Yeah. So, you going back, so your tech days, have you always done video stuff and production?
Actually, oddly enough, no.
More music, right?
Yeah, my first, yes. There you go. You did your homework.
I always got to know who's coming on.
My first video I ever edited was the 10 things I wish I knew about goats, which we released back in July or June. But I had done music production for many, many years, and the way I always tell people is it's very similar. There's a lot of overlap between those software. It's actually easier to do video, in my opinion, because it's like more 3-dimensional, and it just feels very intuitive to me.
Right.
And I actually like really enjoyed it, because I always felt like when you're editing audio, it's kind of just that one dimension. So
right.
It's
when it's layered, it's and it's got to fit within a certain, construct, and So doing a video, like a talking head or like a follow vlog style is more loose.
It's super fun.
I
had like a recording studio in my dorm room, and I've recorded like albums, and like I used like our basement is like a recording studio, and you and I were like nerding out before we started recording on mics and stuff. But
yeah, you met Ann actually through music.
We did, yes,
yeah.
And in my dorm room recording music. She was my roommate's sister, and we met my freshman year of college, and we kind of connected over like music, and we recorded her original stuff back in the day. Probably will never see the light of day. Somewhere
it's on cassette tape.
It's on a hard drive somewhere. Okay. But that's how we met.
Right. Yeah, you guys were doing like 60s or 70s cover music or something. I think I saw one of the.
Yeah.
See, you got to be careful what you put out on the internet. People learn a lot about you before you even get to talk to them. Like you probably don't, like, who's this Matt guy? You don't know anything about me, but.
I know that you're in what looks like an empty void right now.
Right. Yeah. People say that when I wear a black shirt and I wear a black hat, it's just a floating head.
Yeah.
I do that because I'm in my home office, and so I've got a screen that I pop up because I've got my work computer on the other side of me, and sometimes there's stuff there, and it's just a mess. In my squeaky chair.
I like it.
Yeah. Oh. But yeah, so you guys, are you playing more music and stuff together now that you're not in the corporate world?
Not enough, but we, one of the nice things about living in Nashville is that everybody plays an instrument. Like,
right.
It's like your Uber driver.
Yeah. You need a bass player? Yeah.
Yeah. Your Uber driver is like the best guitarist you've ever met in your life. Probably, it's like,
yeah.
It really is a music town. And so what is cool is like we have people over all the time, and we jam and do that, and sometimes hit record, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And then you've also got a secret project, I think, that you started. I love the look. You're like, I do?
Maybe.
You're like, how did you know about the secret project? Well, it's not so secret. It's the Tiki Hut, the Enchanted Tiki Hut.
Yes.
That's your hangout spot?
Yes. I love this. That was my 2020 project. I won't say the word, but
right.
that was my 2020 project that I did with my buddy Mike, who's in the band Delta Ray. We really wanted to be able to hang out outside, and not get attacked by bugs. So we took this like gazebo that's on the property, and I went like ridiculously far on this, but
dude, it was amazing. Like,
oh, you've seen it?
yeah. I looked at the Instagram page and saw it. I'll put a link to it in the show notes if you want.
Yeah, the Enchanted Tiki Hut on Instagram. But I went like so overboard on this thing. I like decorated it with like tiki, pirate, nautical themed, and like it's like it looks like a gazebo that was like abandoned by some guy in the 1930s after he was like shipwrecked, and then it's ridiculous.
It's amazing. I instantly wanted to hang out there. Like I just wanted to go there and just hang out. Like,
it's pretty cool. Yeah, and then I like did I won't say the word, but I did a bunch of Amazon Echoes in there. And
don't turn off my devices.
Yeah. Well, I always appreciate when people don't say it, like when I'm listening to something on YouTube.
Yeah. Good thing I didn't marry a woman with that name.
That'd be a bad name.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. But yeah, so there's 6 of those devices in there, and they're all, and I have different routines that set off different combinations of smart LED bulbs and all kinds of stuff. It's just like I just went like way overboard.
Yeah.
And that's where I sunk like a lot of my free time in that year.
Yeah. So, like I said in the intro, you're not Adam of no trades. You're Adam of lots of trades. So it's like you're Adam also of all trades.
Also, I have some trades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll change my name. Some trades.
Well, you wouldn't be the first guest who changed her name after being on the podcast. I had Rachel. She was Desert Woodworks, and I was asking her about it, and it was the way that she spelled it. It was like WRKS or something. I don't. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And tell me more about the name. And she was like, "Yeah, I get people asking me all the time because I don't live in the desert, and why the name and stuff like that." And it was maybe a month later or so. I saw her name. It was Rachel Woodworks or something like that. And I said, "Did you start a new account, or is this the same account?" She, "Oh, no, I changed the name." And whether she was blowing smoke or not, she's like, "Yeah, after the podcast," and it was like, I finally was just like, "Okay, I'm just going to change it." I'm like, "Well, now I got to go back and change all the stuff in the show notes."
There you go. Changing the world.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah. So that Tiki Hut is awesome. You do. So you work alongside of Ann, and you guys are tending the farm together. You're doing the video stuff. Has its ups and downs. What's the future kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think we want to kind of get back a little bit into some of the building our audience that's off of those platforms. Kind of get the email list started going, maybe getting a newsletter started again, getting the store that she has on her website, kind of reviving that up again, getting the merch kind of healthy again. A lot of like the stuff that just takes lots of time, I'm sure
Right.
and it's just tons of attention. And I think that for us starts a lot with getting our video production a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that, a lot of that is my learning curve and kind of getting a feel for Ann's business as well as video production in general. So that's, I think, a big focus for us. We're looking forward to, Annie still does a lot of public speaking. And so I always look forward to piggybacking on some of those trips. We just went to Colonial Williamsburg, which was pretty rad.
Oh, nice. I haven't been there yet,
cool.
but yeah, I would love to check that out.
Workbench Con was rad.
Yeah.
Makers Camp was rad.
Yeah.
It's a fun community.
For sure.
I'm like totally stepping in from the outside, but it's very clear to me that this is a very small but tight community, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned before we started recording, Joseph with Joe Jacks, he did he did all the production stuff when we recorded at Workbench Con. Very thankful that Workbench Con and Kristen and all them were able to get us set up in a room there. We were able to record, and it was there when he was like, "Hey, have you considered?" And you and I were going to try maybe or I was going to ask you if you could step into the room and record there. But it was crazy. I mean, there was just so much going on. Yeah. And it took everybody that I've talked to is like, it took a week at least to kind of bounce back from that.
It did,
because it was such a high.
It is. It was a lot of fun. I am very grateful, I think, to like a lot of the folks in the community for kind of welcoming me in so fast. So it's been a lot of fun. And I look forward to those. Like I'm looking forward to Maker Camp for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have to get my ticket, to that. So, I did the same thing last year. I said, "Oh yeah, I got to get my ticket." And then I waited to the last minute. And, by then the tickets were still available, but the rooms were not. And I'm not I can do a tent, but, nobody else wants me to do a tent, especially if I can't, it's just, I'm a snorer and
yeah. Yeah. it can be like camping out there. It was a little chilly, I will say, when it was up there, but
yeah, build up the bonfire a little bit heavier.
yeah. So you guys recorded podcasts when you guys were at Workbench Con?
Yeah. So the sponsor of this podcast is Surf Prep, and because I was going to be there with them, I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity. Originally, we were just going to record at the Airbnb that we were staying at, and we decided, well, let's just ask Kristen if we can record there, and so she got us set up, and she put a banner there and all that kind of stuff. And then when I asked Joseph, hey, can you do it? And he's like, yeah, I've got the full setup, and he loaded his entire car full of stuff. I mean, it was crazy.
He's got a lot of, he has like quite the setup. Yeah. He actually gave me one of his lights, which it's actually like sitting right here. So
really?
Thanks. Nice. Yeah. The reason this looks better is because of him. So
perfect. So make sure you go out on YouTube and watch this. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple or Google or Spotify, we also have a YouTube channel. You can go over there and subscribe and watch the content as well.
There you go.
But yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah. So we got all set up there and recorded one episode live. And when I did that, I was like, man, I don't ever want to go back to this virtual recording stuff, because it was just, it was so cool.
It's pretty cool. I was nerding out with him. And he was giving me a bunch of like lighting tips, which I'm endlessly fascinated about. I quickly learned, after diving into video production, that like lighting that's like a big part of it.
Huge.
Is like figuring out lights. And so anytime I can talk with somebody who has some of that wisdom, I love just picking their brain.
Yeah. I texted him just before we got on, and I was like, yeah, I'm meeting, and told him, I was like, oh, you wouldn't guess who I'm recording with and stuff. And he says he's one of the best producer editors in the community. So wow. He said that about you. Wow. You should know that. I think seeing your content, and I like to binge the channels of the people who I'm going to have on the podcast. Seeing the production value and all that you do put into it, I can easily see you with a team at some point being able to produce a show. Like, it's just,
thank you.
Yeah. It's evident.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, that's really cool. I thought we'd love a team, but
right. Yeah.
So wouldn't we all? Anybody want to work for free? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But
I mean, come learn from the best.
There you go. Boot camp.
It's so difficult. Like if you're doing tripod work and stuff like that, just picking up the tripod, moving, and now incorporating lighting and trying to get, those angles and the 45s and all the soft boxes.
That's one of the things I've struggled to communicate to kind of some of my old coworkers and some of like even friends or family, is like, without sounding like too like sounding spoiled, but like because what we do is sound ridiculously fun. Like, oh, you make YouTube videos for fun. Like, oh, that must be so fun. But like this stuff is like 5 times hard, like more involved than I thought it was.
Right.
Like we're like, especially like if you're just 1 or 2 person crew like us, you're just wearing so many hats. Like there's a reason, like when the credits roll on a TV show or a movie, that it's so like long. It just keeps going. It's like there's a reason why. It's because each discipline requires like a lot of focus and a lot of attention. Like, if your gaffer is like messing around and the lighting's like just inconsistent, like you'll see that, but somehow like 1 or 2 people is supposed to be paying attention to all of that. But it's hard. I think with every video, there's 1 or 2 technical things that just bother me. And they still get published because like we're not going to reshoot,
Right.
And so like I can tell you with every video, like one thing that like really bothered me, and it's just out there. And so like for us, it's like, oh, I kind of learned that for the next time. And I know if we ever are in that setup again, like I won't have that setting on, or, I'll put the light the other direction. But those
are always the videos that take off too, right? And you're like, oh my God, more people saw that.
Yep, that's pretty much what happened. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was one video where like the autofocus was like on, and it was like it kept twitching.
Oh, in and out.
It kept twitching in and out, and I was like, it just drove me nuts. I tried to throw B-roll all over it as much as I could, and I tried, but it was just, it's out there. So
Yeah.
it's got like 65,000 views or something. So
yeah, I do video production at my church, and I'm part of the creative team. And so I get to shoot with a Blackmagic when I'm at church, and then I come back and I shoot with a Sony A7 here in my own shop and stuff. Yeah. So I get a little bit spoiled when I do the production stuff for the church. But the guy that I work with, a creative director, he says a little piece of me dies inside every time some kid says that they want to be a YouTuber, because they just don't know how hard it is. And my son says the same thing. He's like, oh, I want to do YouTube. He wants to be a gamer. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't want people to feel bad for us, but it's a lot more work, I think, that I think most people realize.
Yeah.
At the other side, like, this is it is a kind of a dream job to be able to tell stories and put stuff on the internet. But yeah, it's not a walk in the park to put this stuff together. So
yeah. Well, we'll head over to the after show, where we'll talk a little bit more. And kind of fill the gaps. We've been going for a minute here, so I'll make sure to put all of your information in the show notes with all of your social media channel. I guess mostly combined type stuff, but I'll put your Instagram there. So I want to say thank you to the Rockstar patrons, Jimmy McAnally, Artigiano Serio, Wimm Design, Calvary Customs, LLC, Cleancut Woodworking, Bailey Thompson, Dave Garcia, Broken Lead Woodworks, Starks Lagoon, Sawyer Design, Kodama Design, and Dylan Furniture. We've got a number of other patron levels, so you can get in on that patron at patreon.com/MakerLoungePodcast for as little as $3 per month. We've got different tiers there, so you can check the one that fits your needs. Also, thank you to Surf Prep for sponsoring today's episode. Head over to surfprepsanding.com and enter code MakerLounge for 10% off. Adam, thank you so much for being here, and we'll head over to that after show.
Sweet.